Hello again, and welcome to another episode of In the Shadows Yet Essential. I'm Dr. Kirsten Knowles, and I'm excited that you decided to click on this video and watch a mini Bible lesson today. So, if you don't know, in this series, we learn about biblical figures whose names we don't hear often, who may not get the spotlight, but their impact in history was undeniable, or their story has some lessons that we can use today. So today's biblical figure is Eutychus, and we are introduced to Eutychus in the book of Acts, which is found in the New Testament in the Bible. Now, if you can't tell, I'm currently in the book of Acts because just 2 weeks ago, I did a lesson on Lydia, and Lydia's story is just like 4 chapters before Eutychus. So Eutychus, like Lydia, is probably not a name that you've heard before if you're just on your walk with Christ. Eutychus, believe it or not, is only mentioned in the Bible one time. In his name, rather, one time in the entire Bible. So when God told me to study Eutychus' story, instead of my usual, I knew he was about to drop some nuggets that would give us some perspective on the significance of this biblical figure that we can apply to our lives today. So we are in the book of Acts in chapter 20, and Paul has made his way back to Troas, which is, by the way, modern-day Turkey, and is meeting with fellow Christians for what he intended to be a short visit to share communion. Now, y'all, Paul must have been a talker. I mean, yes, he wrote a lot of books in the Bible, but he went there for communion and started around sundown or in the evening. But the Bible says Paul ended up talking until midnight. Yeah, that's a long time. So the Bible says that there were many lamps in the upper room, which directly reflects the number of persons that would have been in the room at that time. And then there was Eutychus. Now, Eutychus, whose name means lucky, and I will let y'all decide whether or not y'all feel like he deserves this name, was sitting on the windowsill. Now, first off, this is probably not the best place to be seated. Let's be fair. But again, this tells you how crowded the room must have been and how strong Eutychus' desire was to actually be in the room with Apostle Paul. And here's the first lesson we learned from Eutychus. Eutychus had a strong desire and intentionality to fellowship with other believers and partake in communion, even if it meant sitting on an uncomfortable windowsill to do so, because there was no space in the room. When was the last time you endured some level of discomfort, especially to be in God's presence? Listen, I am one who loves the luxuries of comfort. I am from the Bahamas originally, and people say, oh, you should be used to heat, but I love my air condition, right? Comfort can lead to false familiarity. Your growth, whether it is spiritual or natural, is often determined by what you are willing to endure just to be in the room. All right. Now, the Bible says in Acts chapter 20, verse 6, that Eutychus was starting to fall into a deep sleep. And get this, the longer Paul talked, the deeper the sleep hit him, until eventually he was knocked out and fell from the windowsill down 3 floors to his death. Now, listen, I'm not going to lie. This hit home for me because I know I can't be the only one who used to open the Bible to read and immediately get sleepy, even if it was in the middle of the day. It literally could be 10 minutes and boom, out like a light. So thank God I'm not there, at that stage anymore. But here's the second lesson we learned from Eutychus. Your proximity to your leaders, whether it is in the church world or, in the world itself, means nothing if you don't have the stamina to keep up and stay alert. Was Eutychus' heart in the right place? Absolutely. But even if your heart is in the right place, you need to know where to position yourself in the room. Some of us want to be in great rooms, sit in risky positions, such as the windowsill on the 3rd floor, and can't stay alert or awake. Eutychus was sitting in a watchman's position and either did not have the maturity or he did not sufficiently build up the stamina to maintain his position in a dangerous place. It would have been better for him not to even come in the room, honestly. Let me put it this way. Eutychus wanted to partake in a grace and a space that his maturity, endurance, character, and or level of strength could not handle. It's okay to want to be in the room, but it is more important to know where to position yourself when you actually get in that room. I'm just saying. So let's move on. The Bible says that Paul stopped his talk to go downstairs to Eutychus' body. He stretched himself on the boy and hugged him hard. Paul looked at the men around him and said, "Hey, don't worry about him. He ain't dead." Then Paul got up, went back upstairs, partook in the communion, and continued to talk with those in the upper room until it was morning. Then the Bible says, they took the young boy away alive, and the people who witnessed his recovery were strongly encouraged and comforted. So, even in the trauma of falling from the window, this young kid did not go home immediately. He went back into the room and continued with Paul until daybreak. And here's the final lesson we learned from Eutychus. A moment of failure, a moment of weakness, does not disqualify you from coming back into space with God. Paul did not reprimand Eutychus for falling asleep because he did not have the endurance. Rather, he stopped what he was doing, spoke life back into him, and welcomed him back into a space to commune, and used the situation as a teaching moment and a way to build those in the upper room faith. It is important to know a moment of weakness does not have to become a lifetime of defeat. God's grace is not just powerful enough to forgive your fall, it is also powerful enough to restore you to your purpose. Okay, let's wrap this up. So Eutychus reminds us that being present is not the same as being prepared. He was in the room, surrounded by believers, listening to one of the greatest apostles to ever live, yet he still drifted into a dangerous sleep. The good news is that Eutychus' story does not end with the fall. It ends with restoration. Some of us can relate to Eutychus. We started out attentive, but somewhere along the journey, we became tired. We became distracted. We lost our focus. Maybe we fell from a place we should have guarded more carefully. Maybe we experienced a spiritual fall, an emotional fall, a moral fall, or a season where we drifted away from God altogether. But Eutychus teaches us that a fall is not the end of the story when God is involved. The same God who saw him fall also made sure he got back up. What makes Eutychus essential is not that he fell asleep. It is that his life became a testimony that God's grace is greater than our weakness. So here's my question for you. Where are you sitting in life right now? Are you standing on a stable foundation? Or have you positioned yourself on a windowsill where one moment of weakness could cost you everything? Because sometimes the greatest danger is not being outside of the room, it's being in the room, in the wrong position, while slowly falling asleep. God bless you. Hi, I'm Dr. Kirsten Knowles. Along with teaching the power found in the shadows, I'm an advocate for all types of education, especially early literacy. That passion inspired my children's character building series for children ages 4 through 8, perfect for families to read together and for kids to enjoy on their own. Each story promotes social emotional learning and teaches a fruit of the spirit. Whether it's Kaylee learning patience, Alyssa learning to manage her emotions, or Liam discovering his superpower, I wanted these stories to offer both mirrors and windows. Mirrors so children can see themselves, and windows so they can understand others who may live or look differently. Real life is at the heart of this series. Corey is a child with albinism and his friend has a prosthetic leg. Jonathan finds joy as he supports his sister with type 1 diabetes. Aiden learns faithfulness through his friendship with Lily, who uses a wheelchair. Alana, a vibrant girl with vitiligo, learns gentleness with her classmates. And Tristan practices kindness with his autistic brother Owen. Each book also includes reading comprehension and critical thinking questions to spark meaningful conversations and deepen understanding. Purchase the series at farmerspublishinghouse.com or on Amazon by searching Dr. Kirsten Knowles.